Hello and welcome to the Popcorn Junkies. Is that better? I thought that was my t-shirt.
It is, but I've just cut the neck because it was too tight.
You're so fucking annoying. Can you not do that to any more of my
kids? I just got the kitchen
kit?
scissors out and just cut
Well, yeah, that's
it.
fine when it's your own top, but not when it's someone else's.
This was in a throw-out pile.
It wasn't in a throw-out. Oh, it was actually, yeah. No, you're right. Okay, sorry about that. That's totally boring. We'll cut all that out. We're back. Welcome to the Popcorn Junkies. We're reviewing Back to Black, which is the new biopic of Amy Winehouse. And I just want to quote Reese Roberts, one of our followers, who said he's been waiting for this review like a new release of an album. He said there's a sort of expectation and excitement around the release of this. So I hope we deliver, Reese.
And is that partly because he knows just what an insane fan?
Well, he knows it, absolutely. I mean,
knows Amy inside out.
Yeah, Maddie is a huge fan. My only understanding of Amy Winehouse was through the documentary Amy. I had zero comprehension of her before the documentary by Asif Kapadia, and I think all of us were kind of thrown into the Amy sort of story, weren't we, by that film?
Oh my God.
To be fair, like, it was after seeing the documentary that I properly fell in love with her.
Yeah.
Like, I liked her music before the documentary. I liked her look.
Yes.
I was like inspired. Like, I was inspired by her as
An artist.
As an artist. But like after the documentaries, when I like was obsessed.
Yeah.
Fell madly and deeply in love.
Yeah.
I think I was surprised and shocked by how we all saw because we were all on holiday together when she died. I mean,
Buttons.
Buttons. Don't even ask. I mean, it's about as rock and roll
I
as
was
things
drunk
don't
in
get.
bed with disco lights.
It's true, you were drunk in bed with disco lights. My God.
And we've gone.
Yeah, babe, that was an odd moment for you. I don't think you were very happy.
We went to a water park and we came back and Mum was drunk on the bed and like just
Disco
around
lights.
their head. But yeah, there were these
Early
disco
days of the
lights.
menopause.
Yeah, I think so. So when she died, she was very much, but again, we were at a time, even us, where we didn't think about how the paparazzi, I mean, we'd had the Princess Diana thing, but we weren't sort of as conscious as we are now about how people's lives are totally torn apart by the press and how paparazzi.
It's amazing how unconscious.
Unconscious,
we were.
that's it.
Yeah,
Because we just used to look at people, didn't we? Now you feel dirty when you look on things like that.
Yeah.
You do.
And I think there was an expectation with Amy Winehouse, I know there was, where people were just waiting for the inevitable to happen. It felt like the car crash was coming and everyone was kind of just waiting for it to happen, which is just awful when you look back. Anyway, so this film lands from Sam Taylor Johnson as the director. It has the sort of agreement and sanctioning of Amy Winehouse's family, though there's been a lot of effort in the pre-publicity to say it's not about permissions, it wasn't that, but they had to because they got access to her music, her back catalogue. It stars a relative newcomer, Marisa Abela. She was in a series called Industry. It stars Jack O'Connell. You're a big fan. Yeah, you're big fans of. And it's got other notables in there. Eddie Marsan playing her dad. Jack O'Connell obviously plays Blair, her boyfriend,
Blake.
husband. Blair which program? And Lesley Manville, who plays her nan. And Juliet Cohen, who we know, who plays her mum. And so the first thing I'm going to say before I ask you what you think of it, they call it a biopic. It's been described as a biopic, but actually, to be fair to the filmmakers, they've always said that this is a film about her life through the lens of her album, Back to Black, both through the lens of the words, through the lens of the lyrics, through the lens of the music, and through the lens of how she saw her life in the way that she wrote that music. And I think it's really important just to stress that at the front, because
Are they imagined? Because very presumptuous to say how she thought about her life.
Exactly.
Because when I saw the screenplay writer had said that, I looked everywhere to see if they were great friends, but he didn't know her.
Yeah,
He said, I thought a bit about how Amy might want this to be, and then I did it that way. It's like, well, how can you know that?
you didn't know her.
yeah,
So weird.
yes, it is odd. But I think
Like, she's the only person that could tell us how what she thought of the album through her eyes.
Or something extremely close to her might have been able to.
But I think what they're driving at here is it's a kind of get out of jail card for the fact that, as we're about to discuss, the portrayal, say, of people like Blake and her father and her life, where we feel perhaps it wasn't as accurate as we would have liked it in terms of a raw portrait of her life. How rawly was she viewing her own life? Would she have been seeing herself as this kind of, addicted kind of mess in the way
Genius.
that genius,
Exactly. Smart, witty young woman.
I'm not popping. I just want to be fair, because the one thing I hate about film reviewers or anyone is when people they prejudge something and they come in hard. We went to see this, and me and Maddie went to see it together. You saw it with Lisa and Kiki, and I said right at the front, I said it's really important that we just kind of shake ourselves down and go, right, let's give this a fair crack at the
I
whip.
didn't. I went in saying to Lisa, God, we're going to hate this. This is shit. I said exactly what I said as we sat, because Lisa said, oh, I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, right.
It's going to be terrible.
Well, I hate biopics anyway. I mean, it's really hard for me. I mean, the last one I saw was Bob Marley, and it was just like, oh come on guys, it's so saccharine, it's so, you know, and it's an opportunity to
It's
sell
one of those
music.
things that when you really like sit and think about them, biopics are it's just a weird thing to do for me.
Yeah.
Like just make a film out of something that's, because also with Amy, she's not even been dead 20 years yet and make a biopic out of her.
And that is a big thing for a lot of the fans of Amy, isn't there? There's been a lot of backlash about how soon this has been made, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't remember there being the same sort of backlash when the documentary was made.
Oh, I think
Was
it
it?
was.
In terms of it being too soon?
Some people, yeah, there was.
Well, okay, to give the backstory again, I mean, I've got my theories on why this was made and how this was made and the reasons why it's been made so soon. You know, Amy, the documentary, I think, did an incredibly, honest job of portraying the complications of her life and the raw kind of things that went into her creativity, her music, her lyrics, everything. It was incredibly, visceral, wasn't it? And it was real. And we all came out thinking, my God, she's this and that and the other. This, from the get-go, is romantic portrait, I felt, of Amy Winehouse. And I don't mean romantic in a good way. I mean, this is sugar-coated, soft-focused.
Years ago, I interviewed her very, very close friend Tyler. You know Tyler? He lived with her from 8. They met at Stage Call when they were 12.
Yeah, he was in it for like 2 seconds.
Yeah, he was.
And then he moved in with her at 18, and they lived together till she died. And he's been sober for a very long time now and stuff. And anyway, he watched the film. I read this interview with him, and he was crying on and off through the interview.
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah, and he said that it should have been called a fantasy biopic. And actually, I think that's right, because that's what I was kind of getting at when I was saying, how can the screenwriter says through her eyes? You weren't in her eyes, you don't know. I think if they labelled it a fantasy, an imagined biopic, they would have got away with it.
Justice.
But I think, like, I watched it with a friend of mine who doesn't know all the stuff that we know about Amy and hadn't seen the documentary, and she just thought, oh yeah, this is lovely, and yeah, she enjoyed it for what it was. But it was kind of frustrating watching it with her, because she felt he wanted to like fill in all the gaps of what we know about her, and that's what Tyler said. He said, so much of it was just wrong.
It's just not something we should be able to come out of and go, oh, that was lovely, wasn't it? Like, that's not how we should be coming out of a biopic of Amy Winehouse's life. I think even if their argument is that they're doing it like painting through her eyes on what she thought of it or whatever, I don't think she would have she never glamorized her life.
Right.
She kind of fully embraced the darkness. At least this, obviously I don't know Amy Winehouse either. Yeah. But this is just from being a massive fan and watching pretty much every interview with her, every video
It's not
there is
first
of
you
her.
haven't seen, is there?
Yeah, from that she's always was very honest about, and weirdly like self-aware of the chaos going on in her life. And she did, to a certain extent, kind of seek the darker points in her life for her music and everything. I think how he's portrayed in her music isn't just as this little cheeky geezer.
Right.
I think he's also portrayed in her music as somebody that really, really broke her heart and messed her up. And I don't think the argument being, oh, we did this through the lens of the album Back to Black, I don't think that's a good enough argument, because it wasn't through the lens of Back to Black at all.
Right, so
that's
It was
interesting.
just a fantasy biopic, like that's what they
That's interesting. So even by their own standard of trying to kind of, they're trying to position themselves, I think the filmmakers, behind the idea of this is the kind of romantic vision
But they're calling it a biopic.
Well, no, I know, exactly. They're wanting their cake and eat it here. I think
I would say she was a dark romantic. It wasn't a sunshine and rainbows romance type person.
I mean, I was always struck by her, by the fact that she was this like incredibly independent, ferociously safe in who she was sort of woman, and she would tell anybody anything. And I loved, like, you've shown me so many interviews with her, where I just love the way she's answered people when they're just like, when they've asked such a stupid fucking question. But I was always struck by how much she used to also play baby girl. Like, she used to also do this like little baby girl thing, didn't she? And she wanted to be like a little wife, and she wanted to be, but I don't think that was essentially who she was. It was just like a little part of her fright self. And for me, the whole sort of front part of the movie was her like,
She was just made quite twee.
Well, I'm going to be more blunt than that. When we got to the first scene and we were at her father's family, and it was a family party, a family get together, and we get a chance to see Mitch. He's a bit of a one. He likes to sing. He's a crooner and all that kind of stuff. And then when she walked into the room and started to sing, Maddie had to physically restrain me because I wanted to run for the door and leg it through London, screaming.
I was sinking down into my seat.
It was the most hideously
cringe,
awful moment where I thought, I can't do 2 hours of this for the sake of the actress, because at that point I thought everything that was my worst fear that I've sought to leave at the door was crystallized in a moment that felt so badly directed. So it landed so badly.
Yeah, it's so bad.
Her voice felt odd. It felt odd. And then
Really
and
strange.
here's the deepest irony of the whole film. The one moment where any artist is lip syncing is Eddie Marsan in that scene. He wasn't singing in that scene. He either sang it somewhere else or someone else sang it, and they put the bloody voice on him.
I don't
and
think
it
she
felt
was in that
awful.
scene either.
That first scene was ghastly.
And we should make the point that she does sing. It's not Amy's voice. I think a lot of people think they're going to hear Amy's
Another
voice.
problem I had with the film, yes, she sings, it's the actress singing throughout it, but every so often when there was like, say when it was in the pub with the snooker table with Blake, when her song would be playing in the background, it was actually Amy Winehouse's voice. And it's like, why would you put in Amy's, like, unfair on the actress, why would you put in here and there Amy's actual singing voice and then have her sing and, sorry, for me, sound absolutely nothing like her really.
Right.
I think you either go full force with having her rhyme and have Amy's voice over the top, or you only have her singing for Amy. It was really weird how every now and then it would be actually Amy's song. I was like,
I mean, the thing about
that's
Amy,
just showing her out, like it's exposing how different her voice is.
Yes.
and she was a totally unique person. There was no other person that was even vaguely like Amy Winehouse, and also with her voice.
Yes.
So it does, and actually Tyler in this interview, Amy's best friend said, why would you not use her voice?
It's everything we've been saying all along.
It to me it was insane. Now I just do want to say, I think the actress worked her arse off, and I think she's a good actress, and I think she did a lot that was great. I would hate this to be a bashing of the actress.
Oh no, we haven't got to that.
She
No,
wasn't.
not at all.
And she owned the screen actually in a way I wasn't expecting from other things I'd heard in clips. But I think she was being done a disservice by the screenplay and by the direction.
Yeah, I agree.
I
She
entirely
tried her
agree.
best.
Well, and
I
I'm
think
pleased.
I think the hate she's gotten is unfair. It's
That's
like
so wrong.
every all of people's problems with the movie's just been pinned on the actress, which I think is really.
And that was always my fear. When I saw that clip that they dropped,
you said
the Ronnie Scott's clip, my line on all of this was, I'm really worried. I'm not an enormous fan of Sam Taylor Johnson, the director. I'm not a fan of the biopic.
can understand.
No, I'm not a fan of the biopic genre, but even with all of that said, well, what I will say on that quickly is, it wasn't as badly made as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't as mishandled as I thought it was going to be. I actually thought once Maddie had made sure I'd stayed in my seat after that first scene, I thought she got progressively better and better and better throughout the
Much
film.
better.
And I actually think she was actually really, really good. I thought it was an impossible task she was given.
Oh my god.
And I actually think that the
It's a
director
poison chalice, that
totally.
task.
And I think the director, my fear with all of it was the director could have really helped her out more by allowing her the freedom to mime, removing that huge burden of responsibility and then comparison. And she could have just even spent more time on all of the kind of other stuff, because she spent 3 months just trying to get her voice right. I mean, all that time for a likeness. And I mean,
Is there a load of ego put in there from the director?
about what?
No, it took 3 months to get her voice. It's a real disservice to Amy. Because you're not going to take anyone in 3 months and get Amy's voice.
But there's one moment pretty much straight after. It's the next time she sings, where I was saying to you yesterday about this. There's a shot where she's in her bedroom.
Yeah, which
And
what is it about men's song?
Yeah, and I thought whatever the tone of her voice was, however well, that was an incredibly difficult sequence to shoot. It was one take, one dolly. She's essentially feeling her way around the discovery of her own lyrics, and then she has to get the mistake and the stumble at the right. Now, all of the technicalities of performing that shot, at that point, that was actually a really key scene for me, because for me, I immediately felt like I was I thought this girl's looking after herself in this. She's looking after herself within the film, the actress, as opposed to the director looking after.
So where we are so far with what we're saying, would we have been more accepting if it had been called a fantasy? Is the real problem here that all of us as Amy fans of varying
No,
degrees?
that's not just the problem.
No, that's not the only problem I had with it.
It's one of the problems, but it's not the only problem.
But I think
Because
a
I
lot
think
of it-
even as a fantasy biopic, even then, one, I just don't think a fantasy biopic out of her should be made. Therefore,
Too
I think
soon.
I just don't
Too
think
soon.
What I think is, I just think that the film shouldn't be made. I don't even think it's a case of too soon. I personally found it like, I know I think it's too soon, but I don't think that's like just the case. Obviously, I know that like a lot of her like close family and friends have been involved in this apparently. But
Not our friends, apparently, Tyler says.
well, here we go then. I
Well,
thought it was
apparently,
really
yes.
disrespectful portrayal of her personally.
Yeah.
I think she was made out to seem like a mad woman for no good reason.
Tyler said the most outrageous thing was it was saying that she'd got into first class A drugs before he
Well, this
did
is what
it.
Mandy
So,
pointed out straight away.
She was the only addict.
Well, no, we knew
Well,
he was doing drugs because
yeah.
there's the whole scene when he's doing drugs in
Yeah.
her house and she says no to them. But the whole thing about it is like, see the Amy documentary, because in the Amy documentary, Blake is interviewed and he says it himself, I introduced Amy Winehouse to crack cocaine and heroin. He did it, and he knows that, and he's owned that. So why on earth, in this film, would you make it seem like she went and got crack herself and then
Yeah.
did it again?
Shocking.
when she was with him?
But I would also go even further than that, and then actually do what I thought was a really devilish sleight of hand, where they had a moment where he gave her a crack pipe later in the story when they're in Miami getting married, and I thought that's so they can cover all bases. I tell you what I felt. So I want to say from the start, I thought Marisa Abela does not deserve to be shot down for anything in this film. I think she was really strong, really powerful, gave it everything, working with a really quite pedestrian script and an appallingly constructed story. I thought the storytelling was diabolically bad, and that's not actually about how she even necessarily covered the scenes. I thought the linking between moments, huge swathes of time, and when I say time, that's what film does, you jump from time to time. But huge swathes of time where the most important stuff was happening. So in order to denote that she'd gone down again, we said we always got a wide shot of an interior with a table full of debris.
Exactly.
Well, like you
it.
said, it was literally always like they were just ticking the box, like, oh, she's in LA, oh, she's here,
They didn't,
oh,
and
she's
they,
that.
Amy
Yeah,
Winehouse's tour trip.
because having watched the documentary, the moments that they picked out, it's interesting what you say, Mark, because I think you're right. I think they got the key moments, but I was able to fill the whole of the rest of the story in because I'd watched the documentary.
Right, that's interesting, yeah.
So it's again, I think they cheated massively
Yes.
by just saying just through her eyes, because the screenwriter said she adored Blake. This is how it would have looked to her. Well,
Right.
that's not really very fair to say that you're in somebody else's mind. And actually, you know, that Tyler, the best friend again, said, she adored Blake.
Yeah.
And Blake loved her. And he said, and I really like Blake. And he said he did get overblamed.
But the thing is with Blake, like, I in no way wanted, it's not that I wanted the film to like paint him out to be the bad guy, because I
Yes.
don't think he's the bad guy. I think they were both addicts and they were both
That showed
messed up.
man.
They're both messed up and they both were toxic for each other in different ways. But I just had a problem with it making him seem like he didn't, like there was kind of no, when you see any photos of like Amy Winehouse and Blake together, they look just as ill as each other. They look just as, you know, they're both
It's a sort of
tearing
Sid and
apart their
Nancy
lives.
thing, isn't it?
And he just looked the same throughout. Like he
Well,
just looked
can I just
alright,
pause
and
us all?
just-
He looked like Dermot O'Leary from this morning.
Don't take my line, that's my line.
That was my line.
I
First thing I
looked
said-
over to my friend and went,
That's
oh my God, he's a bit like a good-looking Dermot O'Leary.
He was the photographs of them in Miami. It was a promotional shot for this morning.
I mean, he was a really good actor.
Oh, he was
but
fantastic.
The look was so miscast. I mean, again, my friend said to me, she went, "Don't even fucking look like an addict."
See,
They don't
Well,
look
that's-
like
and I think
anything
that's
like
important.
I agree with, but him playing Blake, I was so okay. I was really scared about this film. I had all my fears about it just because I was like, I just don't get making a biopic out of Amy Winehouse's life. I just don't think it would deliver, and I think that the Amy Winehouse documentary did everything already. You don't need to really do anything else of her life, in my opinion. So I had like so many fears about this film. One thing I was like, right, that's the one thing that will get me through the doors and maybe make the film all right, was the fact that he was playing Blake.
And then he was given the
O'Connell.
most terrible writing. Oh yeah, I've been in here, and what it is my therapist says that we're toxic codependents.
Yeah, I
and
think
now I'm going.
all the acting was wasted on the terrible script, like, because I think genuinely I thought everybody in there, apart from Amy Winehouse's first boyfriend,
Oh my God, that first scene
I
in the
thought
pub where she ditched him.
Oh my God,
that was
it was
another
awful.
moment. You see, these were
I
two
forgot
strikes.
about that.
There were two strikes in almost the first 15 minutes. And I was
when he
like,
comes into her bedroom, she's like, should we just sit down and listen to the Carpenters? But even then, that was really bad writing. I don't know if that actually.
Well, yeah, that was the beginning of making her look like a sex maniac.
Yeah.
Bitch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's what
But
that was.
what I was going to say is, like, if I really think about it, all of the acting in the film, I don't think any of the acting was bad. Every single actor was let down by the script and the directing.
Even the
You can tell
actress
it.
that plays her mum, who I think is a fantastic actress.
which is
I
sensational.
loved her in that comedy drama we saw recently. You know, a line. You've got an actress of that caliber, and you can't write something.
Well, you've
a bit
got an
more
you've got an
for her?
actor of the caliber of Eddie Marsan,
Yeah.
and he is so good. And all I felt, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but what I felt, and if this is what it makes you feel, it may as well have achieved that. Because what I felt was, with each line his character, her dad Mitch, delivered, I couldn't help but feel these were all very strategically placed, very low-key lines where he'd say things like, under his breath, I didn't know that. I didn't know she wanted that. I didn't know it was
do you
this
think
bad.
that's what Mitch
I didn't know. No. I'm sure it was all of those things, and I'm sure it's very like him. I know you've met, and I've seen interviews of
No, in that it's a denial.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a
No,
denial. But what the way it worked in the film was him absolutely curating no blame,
Yep.
no responsibility, and actually.
I don't agree. I think he hit the point.
I
I think her friend begged him to do something, and then he turned to her and said, "Oh, you ill?" And she said, "No." He went, "All right." I think he looked the whole time like a dad that just didn't want to know,
I
didn't want
didn't-
to hear it. I do.
That's interesting. I didn't see it.
No, I didn't see it like that
I was
at all.
like, you
No, you
bloody-
did, but it's
because
interesting
that
if you
crack
didn't.
pipe, if most parents would have gone in and gone, now.
Well, he has a go at her
everyone's
about the
been bloody-
spliff earlier.
Everyone's been bloody
right, yeah,
split.
yeah.
Everyone's been bloody telling me, and you kept saying that you're not. That's what. And he slipped it into his pocket so he wouldn't have to deal with it. It was denial.
That's interesting. I saw him slipping it into his pocket out of sadness, and he knew he couldn't go
Yeah, I
there
think
with
it's
that.
betrayal.
And I thought it was more about he popped it in his pocket, like, oh my god, it's this bad. I've got proof
Yeah,
to say
that's
to
how
her.
they did it.
That's how it came
That's where he
across.
stands for. And all the
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
it's all
promise
done-
you,
no,
this is
no,
a
no, it
wash.
wasn't
That's how
done
I
in
felt
it- it
the
wasn't
pipe
done
went into
in
his
his-
pocket.
I think he embodied Mitch very well.
Yeah, he did.
I thought that aura about him, the energy came across. I thought the acting was great, but the way the script, the way the lines that he delivered, the very few lines that he delivered, where they were placed, and the way they were delivered, which I'm sure it was how he was told to do it, was so like
Strategic.
It didn't sit right with me. It was strategic
But I mean-
in a way of making him look very like.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying about the
When a
point.
person makes a film, you've got a whole audience that will all hear things in a different way. So I heard that in that way. I suppose I'm looking at it from a parent's point of view, that if I found a crack pipe in your bedroom, I'd be running downstairs going, "What the fuck are you doing? You want
Don't
crack?"
know if you would.
But I would.
No, we would probably want to talk about it first, and it would go into. My thing on that is, it was rapidly followed by him suddenly sitting in the Cafe Soho opposite, Ronnie Scott's on Frith Street, and she goes, "I want to
No,
go."
it wasn't rapidly. It was quite a gap. It was not
Wasn't
rapidly.
that long?
But anyway, the big liar here is she never said, "I want to go to rehab."
No, and he certainly didn't. It wasn't all fucking.
It
Oh
was
yeah,
just
all
something all
right.
about Mitch running her straight to
Did
rehab.
you know? I think she did in the second time she went to rehab.
Tyler
She
said-
went, "I think I need to go." She said something,
Oh,
or like it was posed to her, and that
Here's-
time she went,
I think-
"Yeah, you're right. I do." There was the second time, the proper time she went to rehab, she was
No, but
compliant.
Tyler, her best friend, said she never said, "I want to."
No,
go
yeah,
to
it was never
rehab,"
done
which
like
is a
that.
different thing.
Ridiculous.
And for me, and then I'll finish this. I hated the scene of her underneath a tree in rehab,
Oh my
writing a
God.
song. I thought that was so cute, that moment.
Well,
It
there
was
were
so
many.
sweet.
There were many moments like that. I found the stuff on Primrose Hill. I found the delivery of her lines. I tell you the things that I felt I didn't get, which I did get just in the audio, because much of the original documentary does that. It's found footage, isn't it? It's archive. It's archived. It's also interview chat with her. I thought what was quite sensational for me when I came out of the film at the end. I thought, wow, I've come out and I've not actually felt anything emotional. I've got no sense of the absolute cracked beauty of her art, of her life, of her love even. Everything about her story was screaming for a Star is Born treatment, and it shows you, a film like A Star is Born shows you can do this stuff. Keep it mainstream. Keep it a bit cliched at times, that doesn't matter. There was no authenticity.
No, not a
It-
single moment of authenticity or rawness, which is what Amy Winehouse was.
I didn't-
So why would it not be authentic or raw or any of
Yes.
that? This is beyond me. Literally drove me mad.
I think it's an astonishing achievement to make a film about Amy Winehouse, not that it's bad, which is what I was expecting, but it's more of an achievement to make a film that was,
Mediocre.
yes.
I genuinely, my way of summing it
Vanilla.
up, it was lazy directing, it was lazy writing, it was lazily
too.
done. And how can you cover a story, make something out of a story like that, about somebody like her, and do it with that much disregard? It was lazy, it was lazy.
And I also think much
lazy
more important for me,
slice.
actually, and what I was really surprised by was, and again, I'm not necessarily saying this was its agenda or even what it was trying to do. I came out of it feeling like I felt about other sort of starlets or tragic stories of famous people who died. It felt very much at the end, I felt I'd been told a story here that she was really in control or responsible for all of her own demise. She was responsible for her drinking. She was, when you mentioned the thing about being sort of like sex, she was the one who was up. It made her culpable for everything that went wrong in her life. And probably the biggest villain that was done in the most kind of obvious way were the paparazzi. And, that was kind of
Move out of
trite.
the way, come on, move out of the way.
And then the ballet shoe, and I
Oh,
just...
that shot of the ballet shoe. And as Lisa, my friend, said, didn't even have blood on it. That's almost an icon. That's an iconic image. Those slippers, honest to God, from like a mum's like POV as well, like your child. That's like it's still like your baby, and like she's in such a state with this Bella. The two of them are just so fucked up and messed up. They're bleeding. His face is bleeding. He's cut. They're both self. Her feet. She's got no idea, and they take all the trouble to pan down to an almost clean ballet.
I tell you,
It was so weird, wasn't it?
I tell you right now, this for me, I felt the really cynical hand of rewriting the past, removing all of the kind of difficult, awkward bits, simplifying everyone's roles, not getting any sense really of the damage that will have been caused by the fundamental part of her life, which is her mum and dad's split and her over-dependence on her nan. Incidentally, Lesley Manville, I thought was great.
But also the thing is, her friends were massively
where were the
important
friends?
to her.
Where were any of her relationships? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where were any of her relationships?
Where were they?
So that was just
people,
awful
like her
because
friendships.
they couldn't write the multi-characters. That's what it was.
Because it was lazy writing.
She
was
was
simple.
a young, vibrant girl living in Camden, living in
Always
Lodge with
surrounded
all her
by
mates.
people.
So we got a couple of shots with her girlfriends in clubs, and that was it. But she was
And then
very
her friend
intense.
like,
stop being sick. I've got work in the morning.
I just didn't like it. I found it deeply discomforting that in a sense
I was
the
also
men
furious.
were let off the hook.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
wasn't let off the hook.
No, not at all.
She was
the only one who wasn't there.
and she was responsible for every. There was a moment in there, believe it or not, where I felt that they were actually making out she was responsible for poor old Blakey Wakey being the mess,
Yeah.
and I was just like,
my
what the? How have they twisted this round?
But
Why
I do
would they?
remember when Blake went into prison and he came out sober,
Yeah.
and then she wasn't, because it made out like he came out, got sober, and she got
It's the
sober
way
straight
they
away. And I remember at the time thinking, wow, there you go. The guy that introduced her to the drugs
We have
is
family
now
experience of that.
sober, and she's left with the mess, and
Yes.
we all know situations like that.
Yes.
But on the point of addiction, because I do think she was an alcoholic before she took the drug, and as we know a lot about addiction, it's just your chosen drug. So they
Yeah.
were both addicts when they
Yeah,
met,
yeah.
but
Oh,
his
yeah,
happened to
she
be
was always
first
an
class
addict.
drugs,
Yeah.
and hers happened to be alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
So they were in that beautiful disaster situation. They were drawn to each other. They were both charismatic, electric with each other. And actually, one of my favourite scenes was the pool scene.
What, where they first
Yeah,
met
they
and then
were.
they played pool. That was my
Because
favourite
I
moment in
thought
the
the
film.
charisma was great. It was sexy. Even though I kept going, oh my god, it looks like it could be her dad. Oh my god, it's Dermot
my God,
Leary.
Dermot Leary,
That
yeah.
shows what a good actor is, because he was so like connected with her. And then I've just got to mention the shot when they have the snog when she comes back to him. Who
So you
chooses
even know
his nose? His nose.
He was on the side favouring the camera.
So it was a big
So
romantic
mean.
moment. No, but I'm talking about it from a DOP directors. It was a huge problem. There's nothing wrong with his nose, but his nose had blackheads. It was
there was
like
something wrong.
it was an older nose. It was an old nose.
This has bothered you.
It did massively. Me and my friends.
Mums are most angry about this film, about this one shot of his nose being in the forefront.
You know what it was? Because aside of the fact that it was a toxic relationship, I do think that they had a real love with each other. I did feel sad in the split up moment, and then when she runs back to him, because something I loved about Amy was she didn't have any shame for the way she felt about him. She never seemed to hide that. It was quite extraordinary because there was no masking how she felt about him. Every time, there he is, she was always and she runs to him. She doesn't even think, because he said before in the scene, I don't know if she'd come back to me. She gets a phone call, she runs to him, and you're like, oh, for a moment, I'm suspended in cinema. She runs to him, and there he is standing there, all cool and gorgeous, and then we get a zero close-up of his nose.
Yeah, but you've just kind of explained why this film is so unforgivable. Because I see all of that as it almost taking away her ability to make any sane, sensible choices.
Yeah.
What I wanted, it's a little bit like, there was another film I saw a few years ago where there was something that happened in it. It was as it happened in real life. And I didn't have a problem with the fact they were showing something that had happened about a relationship. But what the filmmaker hadn't taken the time to do was show us why such an unbelievable relationship would have happened. And I think that what we got was just Notting Hill-esque shots in Camden of her running up to pub windows, running into pubs and finding him at the same place where he's always at the same
Drinking
place.
her bottle of vodka
Drinking her
from
bottle of vodka.
Stone
She
Street.
becomes the disenfranchised one, who's a bit of a stupid flippity gibbet. Hang on, is this really the woman who hang on, this is the woman who stands on stage, and the only reason she knows how to engage with the fucking audience is because we've seen the scene, because Mitch told her even that.
Mitch told her how to do it.
What was she responsible for herself?
Nothing.
Well, actually, to be fair though, Mitch tried to tell her, and she walked out of the record company and told
She
him
didn't
and everyone else to
perform
fuck
with her
off.
guitar much ever again.
Yeah.
Back to Black album. She did
Yeah.
the
really?
So it's interesting, the little parked details, and I'm telling you right now, this is all about getting the theatrical musical on the West End. This, you can see this on
it's
stage,
definitely on West
and I
End
feel
stage.
that's what's behind
Oh, it
it.
better
Not
not happen. Amy Winehouse musical next.
Okay, well, let's go up to sum up and score. Can I give mine?
Can I do one
Yeah.
thing quickly? Because
Yes.
I saw something on TikTok and
Yes.
it was just some girl who had seen the film and she'd just written her opinion
Oh, okay.
on it. But there was like a thing that she said in it that I was going to remember it, but I've
Yes.
forgotten it. But I just want to quickly find it.
Whilst you find it, I'll share with you. The Independent described it as being, it had the production values of EastEnders matched with the karaoke singing of every bar in London. I personally think Marisa Abela, I think she was really strong and she really anchored it, and thank God for her, really, because I think she
Poison
pulled
chalice.
it up above what it
Nobody should
was.
have taken that part.
No.
There's just this bit, it goes with so many issues and so many negatives and so many blank spots. Back to Black simply shouldn't have been made. There is already the argument that Winehouse's tragic death was too recent to be dramatised, but as Sam Taylor-Johnson handles it with laziness and disinterest, simply rehashing the bad without adding anything of value to the conversation. This film is an insult to the subject it claims to herald. And I think that's so true, like, there was all this laziness and then like none of the value of like it just felt she was trying to tick all of the where she was damaged, tick. Where she was a bit, in love, tick.
Yeah.
Where she went to LA and recorded that song, oh, tick. When she got sober just before she died, sing a little sing-song in your mirror, tick.
Yes.
When she had bulimia, she was
throw
sick
up in
once.
the toilet, tick.
When she was broken by her mum and dad's marriage, she stands outside the door and goes, "Come in, Dad.
Yeah.
Go on. Come in.
Yeah.
Go on." He goes, "No, love. I'm taking Sarah to her mum's," and that's it. But then I filled in everything that I knew about the divorce and how it impacted.
It gave me no insights.
Exactly.
No
That's what this
insights
kind of
at all.
says here. It goes, despite setting it up as a movie about the singer, opening and closing with quotes like, "I want people to hear my voice," or "I want to be remembered for me," Taylor-Johnson regularly chooses to ignore essential moments in Winehouse's journey to get to the romance or her tragic downfall faster. Most glaringly, there is a vast black hole at the height of her successes, seeing only a snippet of her recording of the track Back to Black. The entirety of her musical career and artistic process is omitted, with her achievements being regulated to unimportant footnotes.
Entirely.
Wow, unimportant footnotes.
I agree. They just hoovered all of the kind of the gritty, the
All of the
interesting,
real stuff,
the
all the real
difficult, the stuff,
The genius.
the genius
The
that comes,
authenticity
but also
of
the
the
genius
woman.
that comes out of trauma. I just kept thinking, why was she as good as she was? I came out of this film thinking, why did I like her as much as I did? I need to go and see the Amy film.
Need to remind. Then we then spent the whole car journey back listening to Amy's songs to remind ourselves that this was like
Absolutely.
really
was
was nothing what that film just made her seem like.
She was a brilliantly difficult young woman.
Yes.
And I love difficult women.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
to reduce a difficult woman to just a broken woman that just kept making mistakes all her life. Fuck you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to score it. If I was to score this, I know Nats doesn't do scores, I will give this, for Marisa Abela, I will give this 30 out of 100.
Wow. Kiki gave it a 2 out of 10.
Did you? 2 out of 10? Oh, that's 20 out of 100. Okay, that's not too far.
As we've now seen, like, there's so many people that still haven't seen the Amy documentary, and I think she's still so misunderstood, and people still don't really know who she really was. They only really see the end of her life. So that really bothers me in itself. So I was scared that this movie was going to portray her in that kind of a light, and I'm really upset that it did, because I feel like it didn't champion any of the great things about her. I felt it just felt like it kind of tried to glamorize her weaknesses. You don't really see her strengths at all. So yeah, this film made me really angry, but what I will say again is that I think the actress has been just really wrongfully treated. It's such a hard and like intimidating role to take on, and I think she did it was a really beautiful performance. The only problem was the nobody else involved in the movie did her any good, with the writing, with the directing, with the way that they wanted to portray Amy. I think that's and I just think it's really unfair that all of the blame and all of the hatred is falling onto her, and I think she's the least responsible for that mess. So I think I'd give it a 25 out of 100. And the only reason it's that high would be because I think the actors did well considering what they were given.
I don't do numbers because I can never work it out, but so what I do is, would I recommend it to a friend to see? And what I would say, so there'd be some people that I would say, yeah, go along and see it, because they're not particular fans of hers, and it's okay on a wet Wednesday. But But what I would say is watch the documentary. But even then, you know, we don't really know. These are people that are taking and putting things together. Because interestingly, a number of her friends have said, we just wish she'd made the autobiography so people could have really known. And they don't mention the documentary. So, you know, who knows? But for me, I would definitely say if you really want to know about her, watch the documentary. Because there's so much real footage.
One other thing I'll add that I hate, obviously I loved all of the music that they used when it was her songs or songs that Amy loved and listened to, but I think like the original score's so bad.
Right.
They're like actual soundtrack. That first song that plays in the very first shot, which is a really bad slow-mo of her running from up here.
Oh, yes.
And they had some like twinkly god-awful music that was just like...
God, I didn't notice
And I was like, oh my god.
Did you nearly cry?
And it's like Amy Winehouse's song and me and Mr. James goes, what kind of fuckery is this? She fucking said that. She said,
I have to say, I think so much of the transitional stuff, the camera, it was so uninspired in its coverage. It was uninspired and actively lazy in the way it leapt across time. And I just thought it ticked the boxes. As I said, if there was a tourette with an Amy Winehouse sort of what's it called? Beehive. And it said, follow me. It literally took you on a journey around everywhere they had to go to and pay some kind of reference to. And I think it's unforgivable the way in which the two blokes come out of this like heroes, and she comes out of it a bit of a kind of chaotic mess, all responsible for everything that went wrong. That's how I saw it. That's how it came across to me.